Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into the really fascinating world of octave pedals. These things, they seem kind of simple, right? Just stomp boxes, but they've created some of the most iconic, just otherworldly sounds in music. Really changed what a single instrument can do. Makes you wonder, how did we even get here?
That's right. And our mission for this deep dive is really to peel back the layers on how guitarists first started messing with octave shifting. We'll explore the pedals that really made a mark and the artists who made these effects legendary. It's all about that incredible idea, like one guitar suddenly sounding like two or three or maybe even more.
Yeah, that journey sounds pretty wild. From like garage tinkering all the way to sophisticated digital stuff. We're going to trace that path. And I think there'll be some surprising facts and definitely some memorable sounds for you along the way. Have you ever heard a guitar sound so full it felt like, I don't know, a bass and lead playing at the same time? Or maybe just so searing it cuts right through everything? That's kind of what we're diving into. Okay, so let's unpack this. Where did this whole sonic adventure really kick off?
Well, the very first octave pedal, it was called the Octavia. And it's actually hand-built by an engineer, Roger Mayer, way back in 1967. And here's a cool little detail. He made it specifically for Jimi Hendrix.
Wow, okay. Just for Hendrix. That's pretty bespoke. So what was it about the circuit? What made it that, secret sauce for those wild sounds on Purple Haze or Fire, those almost impossible tones?
Right. Well, what's really insightful here is how Mayer didn't just, add an octave effect. He actually combined it with a pretty simple fuzz stage. And that combination created this texture that almost mimicked the richness of like a cello or maybe a horn section, but with all the raw energy of a distorted guitar. So it wasn't just a new sound, it was really like a whole new voice for the guitar, kind of blending that electric aggression with almost classical depth. And yeah, it was the very first time a stomp box could shift a signal a whole octave higher and do it in real time.
So, okay, if it was such a huge hit for Hendrix, why didn't it just, take over the world right away?
Oh, well, Mayer never actually produced the Octavio commercially, for the masses. So that led to a whole bunch of copies and alternatives popping up by the early 70s. You had faithful clones like the Tecabrae Octavia, and then you had others like the Fox Tone Machine and the Fender Blender too, which kind of added their own twists on that octave up fuzz thing.
Right, okay. But then it seems like someone took a completely different angle.
Exactly. This is where the MXR Blue Box comes in. That was 1971. Instead of going up an octave, it hard clipped the signal, basically squashing the waveform into sharp square waves, and then it added a single sub-octave, so an octave down. The result was just this incredibly thick, really gnarly tone. Super famous use is Jimmy Page on Led Zeppelin's Fool in the Rain. It really stood out. Very different vibe.
Okay, so we've got these early, maybe kind of hard to find classics. How did octave pedals start becoming more accessible, for the average player?
Yeah, the game really changed around 1982. That's when the big mainstream pedal companies really jumped in. The Boss OC2 is a perfect example, a real classic. It actually offered two selectable lower octave you could blend in under your main guitar signal. That gave both guitarists and, importantly, bassists this really beefy, double bass sound. Became a studio staple pretty fast, robust, reliable.
Right, so we've got octave up happening, octave down happening independently. Did musicians start trying to blend those sounds right away in their rigs? Or did the pedal makers kind of respond to that idea? What were the challenges there?
Oh, pedal makers definitely responded to that demand for blending. The original analog Electro-Harmonix POG, the polyphonic octave generator, it really popularized the idea of blending both sub-octave and octave up voices in one box. But the key word there is analog. It wasn't truly polyphonic, which basically means it kind of struggled to track multiple notes cleanly if you played a full chord. Got a bit glitchy. That big leap, the truly polyphonic tracking, that came later with a digital version that really unlocked playing full chords with all the different octave voices cleanly.
Interesting. So it sounds like some of these pedals were really blurring the lines, weren't they? Like fuzz and octave effects just kind of mashed together.
Oh, absolutely. They really did. Pedals, like that MXR Blue Box we mentioned, they perfectly illustrate that hybrid thing. They mix this full-on, intense fuzz with that one octave down. And yeah, that yielded these truly monstrous, almost synth-like sounds. These weren't subtle effects at all. They really carved out a specific niche in hard rock experimental music just because of their sheer power and that really unique texture.
Okay, so if analog offered all this cool, gnarly stuff, what did the digital age really bring to octave pedals? Was it just about making them smaller, or?
No, it was way more than that. With DSP, digital signal processing, that's where the pedal has a tiny computer inside analyzing and recreating the sound. mathematically octave pedals just became way more accurate and versatile. Take the digital version of that EHX POG, for instance. It introduced true polyphonic tracking. So suddenly, no more glitchy single-note only behavior. You could actually play full chords, complex voicings, and each note would be tracked accurately with its own octave up or down. That just fundamentally changed how guitarists could think about harmony and texture. A single guitar could suddenly sound like a whole layered arrangement.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge leap, just in terms of creative potential. What else did that digital leap unlock for musicians? Were there other benefits?
Well, it also raised that whole question of like practicality and reliability, especially live. So pedals like the Boss OC3 and other digital successors, they started adding more octave modes, better buffer quality so your core tone wasn't messed with,
Hmm.
and even MIDI control for complex rigs. All this stuff made octave shifting a really reliable tool. You could use it for complex chords, intricate parts, and trust it to work consistently during a live performance where consistency is everything.
Right, reliability is key live. Okay, so for our listener, if they want the Cliffs Notes version, what are the absolute legendary models they should know about, the ones that really define the landscape?
Yeah, okay, connecting it all up, I'd say there are four key ones to remember. First, the Roger Mayer Octavia, 1967. That's the origin, the ground zero. Then the MXR Blue Box from 71. Remember that one for its crazy fuzz plus octave down thing? Brutal, kind of inharmonic textures. Then the Boss OC2 from 82. That was huge because it was the first real mass market sub-octave pedal, super influential. And finally, I got to mention the EHX POG, the digital one from around 2000.
Hmm.
That really defined modern polyphonic octave control in a stomp box. Game changing.
Got it. Octavia, Blue Box, OC2, POG. And who are the players, the artists who really took these sounds and etched them into rock history?
Well, you absolutely have to start with Jimi Hendrix. Using that Octavia on Purple Haze, fire.
Yeah.
I mean, that cemented the effect in psychedelic rock forever. Then there's someone like Tom Morello. Now, he's maybe best known for the Digitech whammy pedal. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
But his early use of octave shifting techniques, in Rage Against the Machine tracks like Killing in the Name, that absolutely owes a debt to the whole Octavia ethos, that kind of sound. And then maybe more recently, Jack White. He uses the EHX POG quite a bit. He uses it to fatten up his raw, kind of minimalist White Stripes tones into these huge, almost organ-like sweeps or these deep sub-bass growls. He really pushes what one guitar can sound like.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all really mean? We've gone from Roger Mayer's garage back in '67 all the way to today's super precise digital boxes. It seems like octave pedals have just opened up entirely new harmonic worlds for musicians.
Absolutely. They basically allow one guitar voice to sound like two or three or heck even more. So whether you're craving that screaming psychedelic octave up lead like Hendrix or maybe the subterranean rumble of a sub-octave fuzz, there's almost certainly an octave stomp box out there ready to expand your sonic palette, push your sound in directions you maybe didn't expect.
Yeah, this whole deep dive really shows how just one single innovative idea can spark literally decades of sonic exploration and totally reshape what we even think an instrument is capable of doing. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other effects, maybe even subtle ones, have had such a profound, lasting impact on the music we love? Maybe without us even consciously realizing it all the time. Something to think about.